Did you know that in the United Arab Emirates, if you hold an anti-government protest like we do here in the United States, you get stoned? Not the fun kind where you eat Taco Bell at 3 in the morning, the kind where geology becomes a crime. That's the level of energy we're starting with today. Because apparently the internet decided we needed another video titled, "Something Bad About Every Country," performed by a narrator who sounds like he's being held hostage in a basement full of echo chambers. Well, I'm Dr. Sardonicus, and I've been awake for 47 hours reading your Wikipedia edits. And let me tell you, if your country isn't embarrassing itself, it's because it's too busy paying off debt with the enthusiasm of a gambling addict at a children's card game. We're gonna do this fast, we're gonna do this mean, and we're gonna do it without the training wheels of, actually, I'm not trying to offend anyone. Yes, you are. We all are. That's the point. I'm going to give you 3 countries in the next minute that prove humanity is just a collection of mistakes held together by bad infrastructure and worse leaders. Sri Lanka's economy has been collapsing since 2019, thanks to a government so corrupt they probably steal the ink from the pens used to sign the bailout papers. They owe $51 billion to the world and have about 25 million in the bank. That's not a country, that's a roommate who says, "I'll get you next week," and then buys a jet ski. Uganda has a terrible water supply because they're landlocked and their population is growing like they're trying to win a prize. I bet the government's gonna help out any day now. Any day. They're just waiting for the next Mr. Beast video to drop so they can get a well-named Team Trees, Hydration Edition, and Mozambique. Besides being an F-tier Apex Legends gun, Mozambique has one of the highest birth rates and one of the lowest life expectancies. Good luck, son. If your judgment is so bad you found yourself born there, you've already lost the first round. But wait, it gets worse. Because we're not even at the good part yet. The good part is where I tell you about Honduras, where they have 1 doctor for every 3,000 people. Take the economic approach and just get mugged and left for dead, it'll save you the cape. Or Iceland, which has committed some of the worst political atrocities in history. They purchased green beans once. They shot a protected duck. They made rude comments. If you're Iceland, your national scandals are what other countries call Tuesday brunch. Gabon is 90% rainforest and the other 10% is AIDS and malaria. So you can either be eaten by a jaguar or die because a mosquito looked at you funny. Either way, you're not making it to retirement. Now here's where the transcript I stole this from gets real weird, and I love it. 18th century Serbian villagers, when they experienced anything inexplicably spooky, they'd blame the recently deceased. They'd dig them up and kill them all over again. They called these bodies vampires. So the entire mythology of the blood-sucking immortal starts because some Serbian farmers said, "Gregor's been acting dead for 3 days. Let's go stab him again." That's not a folklore origin. That's a MOBA game voice line. Lesotho is more than 3,200 feet above sea level, which is pretty high, but not as high as having the world's highest suicide rate. So congratulations, you're on top of the world and you're miserable. That's basically the human condition in geography form. Paraguay once lost a war against Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay in the late 1800s. They then doubled down and kept fighting, only to lose over 2/3 of its population. That's like losing a fistfight, getting up, yelling, "My turn," and then getting hit by a bus. For over 500 years, the tiny island nation of Mauritius traded hands between the Dutch, French, and British, and they all dealt in heavy slave trade. A nation built on colonialism and bad handoffs. Swaziland, or Eswatini if you're fancy, is the last absolute monarchy in Africa, meaning one guy gets to decide everything, and you just have to hope he doesn't wake up in a bad mood. Timor-Leste is still a dirt-poor third-world country for over a decade, which is like being stuck in the loading screen of civilization while everyone else is on the final boss. Haiti accounted for over 30% of the Atlantic slave trade at its height, importing 40,000 slaves a year. Then they revolted and won independence. Good for them. But the global community responded by making them pay for it for the next 200 years. Classic. Israel is a huge fan of huge walls and not a huge fan of neighbors. Not calling out any in particular. I'm just saying if your national hobby is aggressive architecture, you might want to join a homeowners association and chill. Djibouti is one of the funniest named countries in the world. It's also one of the largest destinations for human trafficking. A little less funny now, isn't it? You think the Netherlands looks like tulips and windmills. No, it looks like a housing crisis and the lingering scent of colonialism. Montenegro translates to Black Mountain, which is not a reference to your friend Monty. It's just a mountain. That's dark. El Salvador has the highest murder rate in the world. 68% of Tanzania's population lives below the poverty line of $1.25 a day. Minimalist YouTubers should take notes. Liechtenstein was the last European country to allow women to vote in 1984. Yes, 1984. The year Ghostbusters came out. Women in Liechtenstein got the right to vote after they'd already seen Michael Jackson's Thriller video. Think about that. Nicaragua has no formal address system. So if you're trying to go anywhere, your address is third house down from the second left turn after the Taco Bell. Good luck, Amazon drivers. Sweden was a mighty empire in the late 1500s, and then they tried invading Poland, which, as history will tell you, is like trying to eat soup with a fork. Nobody successfully invades Poland. Nobody. Poland is the final boss of you thought you had it. Sweden was no longer a mighty empire after that little stunt. Brazil has a Bigfoot equivalent called El Mapinguari, which runs around killing hunters and ripping off their thumbs. Not their heads, not their hearts, specifically their thumbs. That's a level of petty I can only aspire to. The country of Chad has a mad sharp jawline. It also has one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the world. So while you're busy memeing the guy's face, his mother is statistically in danger. Malau's president once sold off a private jet and 35 Mercedes-Benz to raise money for the economy. Too bad it's the third poorest economy in the world. That's like selling your leather seats while the car is actively on fire. Burkina Faso has a capital called Ouagadougou, which sounds like it was founded by Adam Sandler in ancient Italy. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. I just read them out loud while drinking cold coffee. And then we get to the part where the original transcript just gives up. They say, the Roman Empire was at its peak in the year 117 AD. It then did a 360 and fell over in the year 476. A 360. That means it would be facing the same direction, you absolute walnut. They did a 180, but fine, whatever. They also say, the last traces of the Roman Empire can be found across many middle-income shopping areas in the United States. And honestly, yeah, strip malls are the new Colosseum. You go there to watch people fight over parking spaces and get eaten by lions called Karen. Seychelles is regarded as the Garden of Eden but has terrible plastic pollution. Their saving grace is that their iconic sea coconuts are making me act up something awful. I don't know what that means and I don't want to. In 2011, Malta held a record for most people gathered dressed as storybook characters, at 453. Then they got obliterated by Singapore with 1,560 in 2014. Neither country has ever heard of Comic-Con, apparently. Mali was home to the world's richest king, Mansa Musa. Now it's home to the world's largest mud building. That's a downgrade. Colombia has a thriving coffee export, but they also dunk cheese in coffee and sell you donkey porn on the side of the road. Take your pick. Austria is ranked last in press freedom in the entire world. Not North Korea, not Iran, Austria. The land of Mozart and Schnitzel is where journalism goes to die. Tuvalu is a tiny group of islands northeast of Australia with an area of just 10 square miles. Almost no one goes there, so who cares? Give it up for Tuvalu, everybody. Liberia had a civil war from 1989 to 2003. Over 250,000 lives lost, most of the killing performed by child soldiers. Imagine getting 360 no-scoped by a 4-year-old but in real life. Funerals in the Dominican Republic last 9 days. 3 days of grief, 3 days of silence, 3 days of acceptance. Just chuck him in the ground and move on already. It's considered rude to refuse food or drink in Ukraine. Be sure to take seconds or thirds of all the food the United States is paying for. That's not a fact. That's a political opinion dressed as etiquette. In 1847, a quarter of Ireland's population kicked the bucket due to the potato famine. Potatoes rotted, the British government was neglectful as usual. 1 million people died. You know how it is. Denmark has great social welfare programs. Too bad you gotta pay over 50% in taxes for it. The early 1600s was the darkest time in Russia's history. A famine killed off 1/3 of the population, then a war killed off another half of that. Good thing Russia's peaceful nowadays. Bhutan used to be in complete isolation until the 1970s, banning any foreigners from entering. Not that you could get in anyway, because it's just freaking steep-ass mountains everywhere. Greece? I won't go into detail. Pause the video here and look this up. Just don't use a work computer. Bangladesh's capital of Dhaka is ranked one of the worst cities to live in because of traffic, pollution, and density. So, like any other city, but worse. Guatemala had the longest Latin American civil war in history. 36 years, 200,000 people dead. Tragically, there are no guinea pigs in Guinea. It actually really pisses me off. North Macedonia used to just be Macedonia, but Greece bullied them into changing the name because a part of Greece is also called Macedonia. I don't know, man. Tunisia has some of the world's most beautiful golden beaches and also some of the highest domestic abuse rates. When Fidel Castro took control of Cuba, he destroyed and banned all games of Monopoly. Reports of family arguments plummeted overnight. Zimbabwe's economy went through the ringer in 2005. They printed a $100 trillion bill. In reality, it was worth about 40 the United States dollars. Give it up for inflation. And then the transcript stops. Because even the guy reading it realized, wait, I've been doing this for 40 minutes and nobody's watching. So what's the point of all this? What's the takeaway? The takeaway is that every country has something bad about it. Yes, even the one you're about to comment, but my country is different about. No, it's not. I saw your news. I read your Wikipedia. You had a prime minister who tried to ban cheese or something. It's all the same. We're all living in a world where Serbians invented vampires because they were bored, where Paraguayans fought a war until they ran out of men, where an entire nation's economy relies on. Maybe Mr. Beast will show up. And the worst part, the United States isn't any better. The original description of the video I'm roasting literally said, unless you're the United States, of course. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're the exception. The country where we have school shooter drills, a healthcare system that charges you $7,000 for an ambulance ride, and a political system that's basically 2 flavors of stale bread arguing over which one is more bakery. But sure, we're perfect. Here's the 10-year effect. Nobody will remember any of these facts, but they'll remember that you watched a video where a guy in a digital mask screamed about Moldovan agriculture for 12 minutes. And in 50 years, when the climate has eaten half these countries and the other half are just Amazon warehouses, someone will find this transcript in a server farm and think, whoa, this was before we lost Tuvalu. And that's the real bad thing about every country. They exist and then they don't, and in between we make videos about them for ad revenue. So go ahead. Type 1 if your country got roasted. Type 2 if you're still mad about the guinea pigs. Who's more delusional? The guy who thinks his country is perfect, or the guy who thinks any country can be perfect? Pause and guess. I'll wait. If you enjoyed watching me tear apart the geography of human failure, do me a solid. Smash that like button so hard it owes $51 billion. Subscribe if you want more of this energy. And if you really want to support me, there's a link to my Patreon in the description. I need money for coffee and maybe a private jet I can sell for 35 Mercedes-Benz. Next week we're doing Something bad about every the United States state, and I'm starting with Florida. You already know why. Good night, you beautiful disasters. Try not to dig up any corpses tonight.